Hello, my friends. The front remains a living hell, but let's start with some significant updates. The Ukrainian Armed Forces have increased their strikes on the Russians' rear positions. Yesterday, there were reports of strikes in Luhansk and explosions were recorded in Makiivka. Additionally, there was a major fire in the Rostov region with a warehouse of used tires ablaze. And also new images from the Marazovsk airfield show a destroyed Russian ammunition depot. Today, we also know that Ukraine has received 10 F-16s aircraft. Some details about their configuration have emerged. It appears our F-16s are equipped with Terma PIDS pylons for early missile warning. Ukrainian F-16 pilots are now equipped with the latest JHMCS helmet-mounted displays, which replace the head-up display and allow targeting by looking regardless of helmet direction. This indicates that the war is reaching a new level. However, Kadyrov immediately threatened nuclear strikes if they start losing.
Если вдруг что-то не так, я уверен, что мы нажмем на кнопку и покажем, что нельзя шутить с нами. Как сказал наш верховный главнокомандующий, зачем нахер нам нужна этот мир без России. Поэтому лучше нам уничтожить полностью этот сатанизм.
Okay, now let's move on to the front lines where their fighting continues unabated. We'll start with the Pokrovsk direction. Today, the Russians are doing everything they can to capture Zhelanne and move further towards Novhorodivka. Assaults on Ivanivka, then Vozdvyzhenka, and the areas around Novokalinovo, which is here, are ongoing with attacks south of Yasnobrodivka towards Makiivka as well. Here, the Russians aim to clear the territory up to the water barrier. Meanwhile, the battles for Kharkiv continue and the situation there remains difficult. In the Toretsk direction, unfortunately, the news is grim. Reports from the ground indicate that the Russians has entered Toretsk. Fighting is also taking place in New York, right in the city center, and the Zhelanne with caps continues. However, with the arrival of aviation, the situation might improve soon. If the Ukrainian Armed Forces manage to shoot down at least a few Russian planes with the F-16s, the Russians might become more cautious with their air operations, potentially reducing the number of Zhelanne. Overall, there are high hopes for aviation today, despite the fact that the Ukrainian Armed Forces have just 10 aircraft against several hundred Russian planes. In the Chasiv Yar direction, the Russians continue to advance within the city. There are ongoing battles for Ivanivka and Andriivka as well. So far, 11 assaults have been recorded and the fighting continues. However, there have been no changes along the front line over the past day. In the Siversk direction, the Russians maintain maximum activity. They are conducting attacks on Verkhnyokamyansk, Spirne, Ivanivka, then Velyka, Persists, and Synkivka. Despite these efforts, the front line remains unchanged. In the Kreminna direction, the Russians are also advancing on Nevsky and Terny, but they have had no success here for a considerable period. In the Svatove direction, assaults on Berestove, Stelmakhivka, and Andriivka continue. South of these areas, the Russians are entering the village of Makivka and trying to establish a foothold. The situation is difficult, but the Ukrainian forces are doing everything possible to maintain their defense. So far, there have been no changes to the front line over the past day. In the Kupiansk direction, the Russians have been trying to capture Synkivka for 6 months without success. Battles also continue for Synkivka, with a large number of Russian reserves being deployed in Novosilove, Hlyboke, and Kolesnikivka. However, there have been no changes to the front line over the past day. In the Kharkiv direction, fighting continues for Hlyboke, with the Russians heavily shelling the entire area to resume their advance towards the settlement of Lyptsi. Battles for Vovchansk and the village of Tyche also continue, but without any changes. In the direction of Kurakhove, the Ukrainian Armed Forces report halting the Russian advance. However, the situation in Novhorodivka remains critical, with Russians regrouping and launching new attacks to push Ukrainian forces from the outskirts. Additionally, Russian forces continue offensive actions near Maksymilianivka, Paraskoviivka, and the village of Kostiantynivka. Despite these efforts, the Ukrainian forces have successfully repelled attacks, keeping their front line unchanged. In the Vuhledar direction, the Russians continue attempts to encircle Velyka Novosilka and conduct heavy shelling. They also assault Vodine, but all attacks have been unsuccessful so far. The Ukrainian forces managed to repel them, keeping their front line unchanged. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, Russian activity has decreased. They conduct shelling and occasionally try to expand control near Robotine. However, there are no changes to the front line. And in the Kherson direction, shelling continues without offensive actions, and the situation has stabilized. Russian war correspondents report: it seems logical to withdraw troops from the Dnipro Islands. Previously, we had the advantage of the aerospace forces with the FABs equipped with the UMPC. Now this advantage is gone. F-16s are also dropping the FABs with the UMPC on the islands. In other words, sending our guys to the islands now is akin to sentencing them to death. And that's all from me. So please, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.